my best to keep this nice and short and sweet. And so while I haven't done any booktube words are important. I haven't done any daily booktubeathon updates, mainly because I haven't been reading or wanting to read, but last night I did. I did both of those things. I wanted to read, and I actually read, and I'm sorry, let me adjust for a second. And while it wasn't a book that I had on my July TBR or planned for booktubeathon, I was just happy to finish something. And that book was Sun by Lois Lowry. If you didn't know, it is the final book in the Giver Quartet, and it's supposed to tie up the series as a whole nicely. Do I think that is what happens? Sort of. And here's why. We have our main character Claire, who is Gabe's birth mother, and the whole arc is Claire wanting to be reunited with her son. And over the course of the book, she has a journey, because it wouldn't be a book without a journey. So there's a journey, and there's like kind of self-discovery, and there's these really... The book itself is divided into 3 parts: before, between, and beyond. I don't want to get into too much of what happens because I don't want to slip into any spoilers. But my favorite of these 3 parts is between. But overall, it's a decent book. It's a book I think you should read if you've been interested in it for a long time. If you want to know what happens to Jonas and Gabriel and all the characters, then you should probably check it out. I don't think you need to rush out and read it right now. I don't think you need to rush out and read it anytime soon. It's just, if it's on your TBR pile, it wouldn't be a waste of time, but I don't think it's one of those books you need to read right away or feel bad for not reading. I know that it's been on my TBR list since it's like came out, and I think it came out like last year or the year before. Sometime in the past it came out, and I wanted to read it right away, but I'm kind of happy I didn't, because I feel like if I had just rushed into it, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. And I think on Goodreads I gave it 2 stars. I started off at 4, and then as I thought about it, I kept knocking it down. And just because I gave it 2 stars, I don't think it's a terrible book. By no means is Sun a terrible book. Claire, who was our main protagonist, I felt was a very interesting character. I felt Lois Lowry really paid attention to Claire and gave her a complexity that isn't always apparent in children's books, and that's where The Giver was, on the children's section. So I really enjoyed the complexity of her character, the complexity of the supporting characters, but what I didn't enjoy, I enjoyed the complex characters, the plot. What I didn't enjoy was the pacing. Particularly, like, starting in part 2, which was personally my favorite part. I know that in, like, Goodreads, the reviews for part 2 are kind of like, really, you spend 150 pages doing this. I liked that. I felt that was really nice to see over those, like, what happens in part 2. You really get to see Claire grow as a character, as a woman, and it was just great, in my opinion, to see. Like, it was rushed a little, but you could see that it wasn't Claire changing overnight, because I think part 2 takes place over a span of like 6 to 7 years. That's not really a spoiler in my opinion, but it takes place over like a span of 6 to 7 years, and you really get to see her grow. It's not, oh, I've changed like a week from now. So I thought that was personally great. You get to see her change physically and emotionally. It was perfect in my opinion, like all of it. It was all encapsulated change. I don't even know if that's a word or a phrase, but I'm using it. So I thought that was wonderful getting to see her change, but the issue I had was the pacing, particularly starting in part 2. There was some weird pacing things, I kind of overlooked it, but then in part 3, there was a whole lot of weird pacing issues. I felt that the climax of the novel came too late, and the end came too soon. It was kind of like one of those things where it's like you hit it, and then it's over. Like, that was it. It wasn't you hit it, and then you get like a chapter. No, you hit the climax, and there's like a quarter of a page left. Literally. So that was the thing I had issue with. I had an issue with the pacing of the novel. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of why I gave it 2 stars, because I feel like the pacing of the novel is really, really important. It should be an even pace, or it's an even, and then, like, you know, we get the rising and then the climax, and we get like this nice resolution. But I felt like this one just came too late, and there was already issues with it before, and there were certain aspects of the world building that were lacking for me, because there's a scene, again, I don't view this as a spoiler because we know that Gabriel left the community, so her search is gonna take her out of the community. So when Claire leaves the community and she's introduced to color for the first time, I feel she took it a little too okay. And there's another character in part 2 named Einer, and he has this, there's a scene of him giving his like backstory, and I felt that it wasn't given the depth or the, I don't know if reverence is the right word, but it was just handled, I felt, in a very poor way, and I didn't appreciate it for what this, like, his backstory was. So there was those two issues and the pacing issues, and so that's why I gave it a 2 stars. I would recommend it if you've been wanting to read it. Like I said, I don't feel bad if you haven't read it already. If you really don't care about what happens, or you're just mildly interested, I really wouldn't say, again, I wouldn't say rush out and read it. At some point in your life, maybe read it. I don't really know. I don't really usually give book recommendations, but like I said, if you wanted to know what happened, or you want to know where the story goes after, like, you know, to end everything, go for it. I would warn, like specifically in part 2, there is a scene with some, I wouldn't say it's adult content. It's not like explicit like sex or anything. That doesn't happen. But the character I was mentioning before, Einer, his backstory, like that scene is a little, it's handled so if you're a child you don't know what's going on. But if you're older, you know, there's some content there. Just warning you, because I wasn't warned. I wasn't expecting that to happen. Like I said, it's not like explicit R-rated NC-17 material, but it was something I was just like, okay. I think that's everything I have to say. I know it was kind of a rambly mess for 7 minutes, but if you, like I said, if you want to read it, obviously read it at some point. I wouldn't say rush out and read it now, but let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on Sun if you've read it. If you haven't read it, do you plan on reading it? If you don't plan on reading it, why don't you plan on reading it? Is because I gave it this weird review and I'm moving my hands like this, like I'm some kind of like mystic trying to sell you like a crystal ball, I don't know. But if you already read it, like I said, let me know what you thought. If you have a review, link it or tweet at me your review and I'll check it out and we can do that. And I'm gonna go now. I hope you guys have a really nice weekend. If you're not watching it when it goes, like, you know, when it goes live, I hope you're having a nice day or night. I think that's all the times. I don't know. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Bye.